Hello, everybody. My name is Fable, and welcome to today's Toonkind at 12 FPS. With me today is the lovely.
Hi, hello, it's me, Artist of Obsessions, also known as Avi. Boy, howdy.
Boy, howdy. So it's the day after we just recorded Graveyard Smash. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm not fully There's a word for it, but I'm not fully that. Whatever the word is, I'm not fully there. So.
The word is perhaps tired, who knows?
Oh no, I'm definitely
But yes,
tired, but my brain is kind of like, where am I today? I don't know. I don't quite know. You could say it's quite scrupled.
Oh my gosh.
We were saying that word earlier before recording, and it's in my head now, and I just want to keep saying it. It's very fun to say. I hope it doesn't mean
This
anything
is it.
bad. I really hope it's just a word we
Same.
made up. And if it ends up, and I'm not gonna look it up at the moment because I have too many tabs open. Uh, So I'll just have to
Man.
I'll just have to pray and hope it doesn't mean anything. But anyways, so anyways, for folks at home and people here, if you couldn't guess from the title card, today's FPS is called Sick Days, and
Yep.
this was actually something me and Abby had talked about a while ago.
Yeah.
But it was a case of with the Ruined All games that we couldn't do it just yet because it, you know, needed like
The
actual. Anyways, we talked about it and
some plot stuff that needed to happen,
yeah, plat.
such as the Pecking Ruins getting finally fixed.
Yeah. You need a proper place to sleep for the child. Yeah, and Ruby, you finally have now that the ruins they're not really ruins anymore. There is a castle. It's still old as peck, but it's you don't have to worry about the roof caving over your head at any minute.
There's now functioning doors.
There's functioning doors. There's a bathroom, which I think
There
only
is, in
one,
fact,
which I think currently only one person uses, which is Ruby.
she's the only real kind.
She's the
Yeah.
only real. She's the only real kind, and the other person is her familiar pig, a dragon, who's not even in the ruins, a rat. I don't know Duster's deal, and I don't want to know. Uh, and then there's the and then there's the skeleton overlord, who I feel like a skeleton overlord is enough explanation on that matter.
Yeah.
But anyways, uh,
No digestive system.
no digestive
So
system. No. There are no poops from the skelly man. Anyways,
I can't believe we're starting with this.
this is listen. This comedy gold here, folks. Comedy gold. This is what we're here for. Anyways. Okay. Gotta get the giggles out. What the fuck are we doing? Okay. So this takes place, I imagine in my head, is probably been, I want to say, like a week. I want to say a week or two after the events of Graveyard Smash.
Yeah.
I imagine Blink Lightly, who was our lovely guest star last game, has gone his own way at this point. So Ruby, you are back to trying to entertain yourself, and I guess I kind of want to make you do like a Constitution saving throw and just see how long
Oh
it
boy.
like took Ruby to
Yeah, to get sick.
yeah, get to the point of this title.
Let's see. Yeah, Ruby's con score is actually pretty good. So let's see. Oh, never
That's a
mind.
7.
Famous last words.
Famous last words. I think that's one of those where like you just wake up. She wakes up one day and like, ugh. And you just feel like guck.
Yeah, just feel like ugh.
How does Ruby respond to waking up and feeling guck?
Ruby is not a good sick patient, let me tell you.
She's probably
She is a 13-year-old and she is unstoppable in her own mind, so she's gonna ignore the sickness.
ignore the sickness. We have no sickness. All right. Okay.
Ignore it.
Ignore it. Okay. Well, That requires me to make a check. A perception check. 15. I'd say the first day Ruby's up and about. I'm picturing stuffy nose, maybe a bit wobbly, because when you're sick, man, and it shows.
Yeah.
It shows in little. Even if like you're still functional, it's still like, and you don't have like huge signs, it still can be obvious when someone's like when they're sick.
Yeah, there are a couple coughing fits.
Yeah, and there's been more than enough times Antler passes Ruby in the hallways, though often he's kept to himself for the most part. But he's definitely caught Ruby during one of her coughing fits, and maybe for the first day he lets it go. He probably himself thinks, oh, it's probably a cold and will go away on its own.
Although seeing that con roll earlier.
Oh no, yeah. That Constitution. I imagine it's the next day. It's probably like Ruby's condition has probably gotten worse.
It is a real bad fever.
Oh yeah, and with 15, yeah, Antler has definitely taken notice on the second day, and he's about to just walk past her again, but then he pauses, thinks, he sighs, he turns around, probably goes back to Ruby while she's still in her coughing fit. He does that. You know how Antler does. He comes up from behind and he just kind of looms there for a little bit. Yeah, he's doing that. He's doing that again. He's not saying anything. He's just looming there for a moment.
Just looming there while Ruby's like.
Yeah, and he's
coughing away.
Well, he's letting his shadow like loom over her so she can tell that he's there.
I think as soon as she like notices that he's there, she just kind of turns around with like a flat, bored expression. Well, a sick expression, more like just like I'm miserable at the moment, but like I'm still gonna walk around.
Yeah. Yeah, Antler just you see it. You can see his face. So you could see him raise an eyebrow at you with like an equally flat look. But roll a bit of insight.
Oh no! Oh, insight. That's great for Ruby.
16. 16. That's pretty good. Hey Ruby. Like he's looking at you very much with a okay. Like, you know that I know that this has been happening, and I should not have to say it out loud. Because it's that up. Because
you're gonna have to say it out loud because Ruby is starting to walk away.
Yeah, before you get much farther, Ruby, you get Antler puts his staff in front of you to block your path, and he goes, and we both know you should be in bed right now. As I recall, real kind are more susceptible to sickness than Toons.
Oh, Ruby just lets out a long, irritated sigh.
Complain all you like, but you are no good to me, dead or ill. And without another word, he just raises a hand and points towards your room.
Ruby is crossing her arms, and she is not moving. She is not making any motion to go back to her room.
I'm just gonna roll intimidation. 17. Antler is looming, and he has the face of someone who does not wish to be challenged right now, Ruby. This is not up for negotiation.
What do I roll against that?
I don't know. Whiz save, I guess.
Probably a whiz save, maybe. Yeah. Let's see.
Are you kidding me? God, these two is a 19. God, these two can butt heads.
Yeah, they can. Unstoppable object makes an immovable force.
God.
Once again, the trend of Ruby isn't scared in the slightest continues.
And you know what? On any other day, Antler would be impressed by the gall that this child has. But today is not that day. So, so he himself takes a breath, takes a calming breath. Give me a sec. I need to take a drink of water.
You're so valid. Oh.
I need to think of what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
Resist all you like. You know that I am correct.
Ruby just signs, "I'm fine." Even though it's very obvious she's not fine.
Yeah, Ruby, you look at Antler's face. He's very clearly not convinced.
Also, just for fun, do you want to maybe roll perception?
Do I want to roll? Should I roll perception or should I roll medicine check?
This one's perception because it's not medicine stuff.
Okay. Either way, my medicine and perception have the same modifier, so it's fine either way. 23.
Yeah. Okay. Notably, Ruby's pig, Oliver, her little familiar. He's not around at the moment. And, I will tell you, it's because Oliver has been nagging her about this, and she dismissed him.
Oh.
She was irritated.
Can I say with a 23, Antler has probably inferred that?
Yeah, definitely. She's a grumpy kid, sometimes.
Oh man, I could do a bad thing, or... No, I'm gonna... Antler thinks about... Antler... Inside the mind of Antler, he's considering casting suggestion on this child just to get this over with. But he's also aware that, children, she's gonna know... and he's aware that this child's smart enough. She's gonna know immediately that he's done that. And as much as he hates to admit it, this child is actually capable, and he can't really afford to lose capable servants at the moment. So... So instead, he'll go... Very well. But we both know that you are too ill to go out. So you are to stay within the castle for now.
You want to roll insight? You probably don't need to, considering Ruby.
Probably not. 21.
Yeah! You see the immediate expression change of, oh, is that a challenge?
Yeah, Antler sees that and just goes, "Oh no, by all means, you can leave, but I can't be held responsible what happens to you when you faint outside. And there will be no one around to help you when your sickness takes over. But oh, what do I know? I'm just an old skeleton." And as he says that, he starts leaving. Like, oh well, he tried.
I think, at some point, Ruby, raised her hands to argue, but... one thing about Ruby is that once you start presenting the logic, she starts seeing reason, and she just kind of pauses. She lets out a long, irritated sigh again.
Antler's probably halfway, maybe a little ways down the hallway before he pauses at the sign and looks over at her. Doesn't say anything. He just waits.
I think Ruby just rolls her eyes as she starts very, very heavily trudging back to her room. With, the weight of somebody who definitely doesn't want to do this, but they're doing it anyway.
Yeah, I get Ruby roll perception.
Oh boy, perception. She doesn't have her new glasses on yet, so it's not gonna be with proficiency, unfortunately. Four.
Four. You you're too grumpy. But for the audience, Antler is watching Ruby for a few moments before letting out a slightly amused hum, shaking his head slightly, and turning to follow Ruby to make sure she's actually going to her room.
And she is, in fact, going back to her room. Just kind of like grumpily, like going inside and like shutting the door behind her. And, like when she's inside, she like kicks off her boots and like just flops onto her bed with a huff.
Trying to think of what to do next. I think Antler pauses outside the room, listens for a second, and he probably hears the flop onto the bed at least, and
Yeah.
and he thinks, okay, that'll probably be enough for now, and he'll probably go back to his own business.
Yee.
And I'm gonna say that he probably leaves her be for the rest of the day. But how do you think she does?
Mhm.
How do you think she does by the next day?
Oh, she's so bored.
Is she any Is she like getting any better though, or is she still getting worse?
Let's roll con and find out.
Let's
shall
roll
we?
con. 15.
She's doing better.
Hey Ruby, turns out the old man was right.
He was right, and she's so bitter about it.
It's prob
Oh.
it's probably at this time that I want to say it's probably midday the next day that Ruby hears like a knock on her door.
Yee. There's kind of like some shuffling sounds inside. Before like it's quiet again, because like Ruby's, not able to talk, so she can't like verbally signal to come in, so she's just kind of waiting.
Yeah, Antler waits for the shuffling to cease before he slowly opens the door, and I guess I'm just gonna make a perception roll because Antler's gonna look around the room.
Yee.
20. Dirty 20.
30-20. Well, Ruby's rubber boots are like kicked into one corner of the room, just where they have been for this whole time. And she's still wearing like her bright red coat, and she has in fact been wearing it this whole time. Very stubborn, refuses to take it off. She's currently like looting around through her bag of holding at the moment, just like trying to dig around and see what's inside it. Because she did get it from like the secondhand shop of Blorps, so she's just seeing if there's like any stuff that was left behind.
Anything that would have catched Antler's eye?
Currently she's she's just digging around and pulling things out. Because she pulls out like what looks like some ribbon, and a minute later she pulls out what looks like a switchblade. And you did get a 20 on that perception, so you do in fact see what she pulls out next.
And I think the moment Antler, because I know what it is, the moment Antler sees it, Ruby, Antler does not make a habit of entering your room. Maybe occasionally he'll check in, mostly to see that you have not destroyed the place.
Yeah.
But this is probably the first time you've been aware of him entering with a bit more urgency. As he sees the vial that you've just pulled out of your bag of holding, and he immediately holds his hand out for it.
I think Ruby just kind of jumps in surprise before like looking up at him, and she just signs what?
You should not be in possession of something like that.
She just kind of blinks and like starts looking down at the little vial.
Oh, what to make Ruby roll for something like this?
Well, in the DM's world did have me roll I think investigation for this.
Okay. So let's.
Yeah.
Well, you've already done that investigation roll, so let's go off that one that
Yeah.
you had.
Yeah. Uh, so like Ruby's just sitting and staring at this vial for a second before like she pauses and very suddenly just offers the vial to Antler without argument. Cause that vial is poison. Oh, that's poison.
Yep, yep. And Antler takes it very carefully, and he even like he holds it up to get a closer look at it, and care to explain to me why you had a vial of blood lily poison in your bag? And he actually looks at you, Ruby, expecting explanation.
Ruby just kind of sighs and she starts digging around the bag of holding and she holds it up and shows that there's like a little secret pocket that she found.
This was the bag you bought at the store, correct?
Ruby nods.
And Antler, and again, his face is no longer hidden, so you can actually see the look of annoyance cross his
This
face.
is gonna take some getting used to. She's used to the void. She's used to the black void of no emotion.
Oh no, and it's like a second after he does that, he sees that Ruby is staring at his face, that he straightens up and turns away back towards the door. And let me think for a second. Oh, I'm blanking. He takes the poison and very carefully puts it into his robe and goes, well, from now on, you are no longer to buy secondhand items from that lava blob store without checking it thoroughly. Is that clear?
Oh no, Ruby, why did you make me think of doing this? Okay. Make a dex save.
A deck save?
Yeah.
Um 17. What'd she do?
She just threw a pillow at him.
Well, well, sorry. I'm just imagining she was going to throw a pillow at him, but then like she got caught by coughs, and so she throws it, and it just ends up like lamely like landing beside him.
Yeah.
And Antler looks down, unimpressed at the pillow, before looking at Ruby, with just the flattest expression imaginable.
Ruby is just glaring. And she just kind of like huffs before she just flops back on the bed and pulls the covers over herself.
Yeah, and Antler just leaves the pillow where it is. He huffs and starts towards the door, and then goes, I sincerely hope you've not been wearing that coat while in bed. As I recall, that's not a healthy thing for real kind to do. And before she can throw another pillow at him, he closes the door.
There is, in fact, of a pillow hitting the door.
A little thump. And Antler shakes his head, and actually, one. That's fumble. That's fumble.
That's a fumble.
That's fumble. I got a 10. Antler rummages through his hammer space for a second, and what he pulls out is a what comes out is a star patterned umbrella. And he stares at it for a second, growls, shoves it back in, and let me reroll. 10, there we go. Then he pulls out the vial of poison again, looks at it, and heads back to his own room / study, cause, well, suppose I should. I can't speak.
You can speak.
I can't do it.
Yes, you can. You've done it before.
It's the worst case of having a stutter and trying to voice a character that doesn't stutter.
I
Voicing
nicely pat you.
voicing eloquent characters is hard.
It is.
Antler, why are you old and eloquent? Come on, man. This is hard. Man, voice actors, how do you do it? Anyways. Well, I suppose I should go make a cure for this. And on the off chance she might have poisoned herself with it. And off he goes to his room to go. So I was gonna say Ruby probably make another con save because Antler's not gonna be back for maybe a day or two.
Yeah. Also, I realized I should have made the saving throw a little less because she did kick off her boots, and those give her a little plus to her con saves. So it's a little less this time.
Oh. 7.
No.
Ruby, you're not much better.
Oh.
And actually, I don't think Ruby brought back Oliver to help her get food, huh?
Yeah, she definitely. she's mad at him at the moment, and she's just grumpy. That being said, she does have food in her bag of holding, so she's probably just snacking on that. But at the same time, this whole time, she has not taken off the coat because she's just so. She's very stubborn.
Yeah, it's probably like another day goes by before Antler shows up again to check. And actually, I think I'm gonna go. Oh no, I know I said I wasn't gonna do the mean thing, but now that he knows what the poison is and he knows what it does. For those who don't know, the blood lily poison is a fun little poison. Allow me to get it real quick. So to just.
Oh yeah. Brought to you by the Pecker Kyle, because this was his bag of holding, and when I bought it, and then Whirl slid into my DMs like, "Hey, guess what? There's things in there. You want to roll investigation?" And I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, but it's a fun little poison that causes maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe a very lot of pain before death. That kind of poison. You know how it goes. But it's a fun. Yeah, but it's also a case of if it's ingested, it can make the person sick, like fever sick. And mind you, we've had this sick days FPS planned for a while before the poison came into play. But now the poison's into play, and currently in the mind of Antler is like, okay, this child could be poisoned. So I should probably keep an eye on her to make sure she is in fact not dying from poison. But if she is dying from poison, I'm gonna need to make a cure, and so much work to keep one minion. God. The rat doesn't give him nearly this much trouble.
I mean, you aren't wrong.
Yeah, so yeah, it's probably the second day. Antler once again comes in to check, but with a 7, Ruby, I don't think you're doing too good.
Yeah, she's definitely not. Definitely not good. Like, the moment he walks in, there's just another coughing fit of of Ruby just on the bed. Ugh.
Yeah, and you can roll insight if you want, but Antler definitely frowns upon seeing this. There's definitely annoyance there. Before he leaves, then there's And you think that maybe that was it. That was it. But then maybe a couple minutes later, he's back again, and again he knocks. He knocks before opening the door, and he's holding a tray. Uh, it's a tray of actual food, because the kitchen has actually been stocked. There's a kitchen in Ruindal, by the way. Antler doesn't use it,
There's
but
kitchen.
Antler doesn't use it, but he has it there because again, when you're running a castle and trying to make an empire, you're gonna have guests over and people who do in fact eat. So, you need
Yep.
food. You need food, food and water. And he brings that in, and also a toonish bag of ice. And he walks in without a word, places it on the nightstand beside Ruby's bed. Is she under the covers, or is she just plopped over again?
I think she's just flopped over at this point because it's hot. It's hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's miserable.
Antler once more shakes his head and gestures to the covers, like, no, you need to be under the covers if you wish to get better. And off with the coat. It's not helping you.
I think Ruby just kind of like sits up in the bed because like she's been sitting up and like watching Antler as he came in the room with the food and the water, and she's just. Do you want to roll insight?
Yeah. 15.
It's very brief. It's a very brief thing, but you do notice it. When you mentioned taking off the coat, she actually does look a little bit. You're surprised to see alarmed before she kind of shoos it away and replaces it with, just her usual grumpy frown.
And Antler frowns back, but he picks up the bag of ice, plops it onto her head, before grabbing the glass of water and holding it out to her, and grumble all you like. You know I'm correct. And I doubt you care for being in this bed for much longer, so the sooner you comply, the sooner you are out of bed.
Ruby just. And she very grumpily takes the water from Antler, and she's just taking a sip. She doesn't really sign anything. She's just grumpy. She knows he's right, and he knows he's right, and she's so bitter about it.
And don't think I have not noticed the lack of your familiar's presence here. So if you do not wish for me to keep returning like this, I suggest you either comply or have your familiar help you, whichever you choose. Is all Antler says before he starts heading to the door again. Because again, he's doing the bare minimum here. He doesn't want to be doing. He doesn't listen. Ruby doesn't want him here. He doesn't want to be here. But again, you're no good to him. You are no good to him dead.
Yeah. She does kind of blow a raspberry as Antler leaves, and there's definitely a long bit of quiet thinking to herself before Ruby sighs and she shrugs off her coat and hangs it up on one of the little things at the head of her bed, and she just flops back on the bed and goes under the covers. She grumpy.
She's grumpy, but she finds out it's much nicer being under the covers without the jacket overheating her.
Yep. Yep.
Once more, the old man is right.
Once again.
I imagine Antler actually returns, this time in the middle of the night. Because really, he's not He's probably returning in the middle of the night this time because he's actually not in the mood to deal with her attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's valid of him. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah. That said, he still gives a small knock to the door, uh, just just in case. Then he will slowly open it and check inside. And actually,
I think this time around Ruby's probably asleep.
okay.
Mhm.
I will say it's actually still dark in Ruindal, but Antler has he has the four orbs of dancing lights floating around him because he still does not have dark vision.
Yep.
And those like four orbs of light actually go into the room first to light up the place. Some of them like curiously like float over Ruby to check over her, and then they go just about the room, looking around. How's Ruby looking?
Uh, do you want to roll perception?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask: would this be perception or medicine?
First perception to notice.
Okay. 9.
Oh.
It's dark.
I mean,
It's dark.
I'd argue advantage, please.
How about this? He doesn't quite notice at first because the dancing lights keep moving around, but then he like waves his hand a little bit to like quietly instruct him to like stay still, stop moving the light around.
Yeah.
13.
Okay, you do in fact notice. Like there's some other things like that you notice. For one, the water and the tray is in fact empty. Ruby did at some point got hungry and ate it all. And you also notice that her coat is hung up on the head of her bed, and one of her arms is over the covers, and you notice that she has scars, a number of them.
I think Antler is noticing these things as he's walking into the room. He's going to the tray to go pick it up, and he's honestly about to. Honestly, he picks it up and is about to turn to leave again, but then he does a double take when he sees the scars.
Yeah.
And for
now you can roll medicine.
Yep. And could you for people who are going to be listening to this later, could you describe the scars for me, Abby?
Okay. So the scars on Ruby's arm that are visible to Antler, they're in patterns of 4, like claw marks, and they're pretty big in size, like in a larger animal might have caused them. And you did get a 17 on that medicine check. So I will say you also notice that there are lighter scars that are underneath them as well. That's actually a really good roll. Okay, the lighter scars do have patterns to them. I don't know if it would be completely obvious to you since it is just a quick glance, but if Antler does want to like inspect further, he can.
I think I'm gonna make a roll. I'm gonna make a roll for Antler.
Okay.
Because they've caught his attention, but this is Antler we're talking about.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm just gonna roll a straight D2.
The coin flip.
The coin flip. We're gonna do a coin flip. 1 is going to be he looks closer. 2 is going to be he realizes what he's doing and goes, wait, no, I don't care, and walks away. So let's see what happens. 1. Antler. Against the voice in despite what the voice in his head is saying, curiosity. Oh, curiosity, you are a very strong thing that can take over the best of minds, and
Yep.
And you have won over the Antlered King this night as he leans a bit closer to look. and maybe
What
even
languages does Antler know?
he's old, so he know and actually I believe he has a. Hold on, I need to check his I need to check his features real quick because I believe he has a thing that says I just need to check real quick. Okay, so he has the linguist feat, so he has studied languages and
Ooh.
codes.
Ooh.
Again, he's this is mostly just because he's a very old toon, and he's just had a lot of
Yee.
years to collect this kind of information. So
Yee. Okay. Uh, does Antler know Infernal?
oh yes,
Well,
he's a
definitely.
he's a lich. What are you expecting? Does he know Infernal?
I just had to ask because the symbols that are on, in fact, the little scars are in fact infernal symbols. And uh, hmm, make an Arcana check.
Arcana. All right. 11.
Okay. You don't get much from that, but you do recognize that the symbols in Infernal are also they also have bits of what's the word? Arcane symbols
Mm-hmm.
as well. It seems to be symbols for some kind of spell, but it isn't obvious what it is because you're only seeing a part of it that's visible from the position Ruby's in.
Okay. Okay, so it's not. It wouldn't be a. It's not a spell that Antler's familiar with, but I mean, there's a lot there that is very easy to, for the simple fact that a chat that to tell you all what's going into on an Antler's mind is more of a put together the puzzle pieces sort of deal. In a this is a child he is aware is trying to stay missing. Uh, he's aware that people are looking for this child this child who magically is very is tend to say quite gifted at magic and quite intelligent as well. Uh, but a child on the run who has who has uh, who has who has a spell scarred into her arm that's an infernal. There's a lot you could get from that, just from that itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Antler considers this for a moment. He leans back. And I think I'm gonna make another roll real quick just to see how we. 20. Okay. That was a whiz save, by the way.
Oh, oh,
Um,
oh. What for?
oh, you know, stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
But he leans back, considers something, and he turns back around to the nightstand and he slams the tray down onto the nightstand before slowly picking it up and starting towards the door again.
So you slammed it down, right?
Yes.
Oh, I think Ruby just kind of jolts awake a bit before sitting up in bed a little and rubbing at her eyes.
Yep. Ruby, you see Antler walking away with the tray in his hands.
Do you want to roll insight?
I mean, I'll roll insight, maybe. But this would have to be like a last glance that Antler gives as he's closing the door behind him. 6.
Oh,
dang it!
That's a nat 1.
Come on.
Well, I will say it for the audience. The moment Ruby noticed that Antler was in fact in the room and she didn't have her coat on, she has definitely like immediately pulled the covers over herself and is looking uh scared. This is probably the first time she's looked scared around here.
Antler does not see any of this, but and you know what? I say he doesn't see anything because he did not look.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Oh, it like hurt.
He closes the door behind him, and hey, Ruby, make another Constitution saving throw.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh, 19.
19. I think that's enough to say that probably within the next day or two, Ruby probably breaks the fever. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't think Ruby sees Antler again for during that time.
Mhm.
Though I you don't see him, but Ruby, you still hear a knock on your door, and when you're able to, but no one comes in, so you have to go to the door yourself to find a tray of food and a glass of water left there.
Yeah. I will say, like, every time he eventually when Antler does return, the empty water and the empty tray will be left behind. But yeah, not a lot of conversation, huh?
Nope, nope. It's probably not until Ruby has broken the fever and has taken the first steps out of her room. In the first time she's taken her steps out of the room, that Ruby you would hear the sound of magic coming from the direction of the throne room, and more specifically from Antler's room slash study.
Yeah. I think Ruby Ruby has a lot to think about at the moment, and she's had a lot to think about for the past couple days, and ugh, she definitely has like her coat on again, and I think she more curiously than anything else is heading towards the sound of the magic. She's gonna stealth, but considering her track record,
I mean, hey, I roll stealth either way. If she's trying to be stealth, 7. Yeah. Okay. This is what I'm picturing in my head: is that Ruby attempts to be stealthy towards Antler's room. For the first time, you see the door is actually left open, and you see like the sparks of like the flashes and colors of magic coming out, and it goes like push push, and smoke comes billowing out of his room. And once the smoke clears, you see Antler is standing over a cauldron, using his staff to mix. Standing over a cauldron and seems to be mixing something. You're not sure what. You probably stand there for a couple seconds before I. You still need to improve on your stealth, child. I could hear you coming down the hall.
I think Ruby tenses a bit, but she doesn't really say anything. Well, she's mute, but she's just very awkwardly standing there.
Antler doesn't say much either for a little bit as he's mixing, but he eventually glances over his shoulder at you, Ruby, before back at the cauldron and goes, "Well, are you going to stand there, or are you at least going to come in here and help me with this?"
I think Ruby pauses for a bit and she considers, like, mentally, like, what she should do here. And eventually she just lets out a little sigh and she starts moving inside.
Ruby, as you walk in, you notice Well, Antler doesn't really respond to you walking in, but once you get close to the cauldron, he gestures with a hand towards the towards little. This is in like the far corner, the right corner of the room where he's basically has his like little is essentially a potion making station. Essentially, is what it looks like to you, Ruby. As there's like a table set out, and there are like a whole bunch of ingredients set up, and he gestures to one of them and goes, "It has already been cut up. All I need is for you to drop it in the cauldron as I mix."
I think Ruby nods before like looking towards what he gestured toward and just carefully picking it up.
Yeah, and Antler will, and again, Antler once again will continue stirring, as and pretty much just waits for you to throw the stuff in.
Yeah. Ruby, surprisingly, according to the instructions, for once, is just adding the ingredients very slowly.
And Antler instructs Ruby. That's probably the only time he really talks to her during this, is just to instruct her of adding ingredients and such. And as it goes on, the potion within the cauldron changes, and by the end of it, where's my reading? I have the instructions too. Where did I put them? There's actually like a full. It's amazing. Whirl actually gave me like a full on instruction thing for making this, and
Really?
Oh yeah, she gave me a full thing, but
That's cool.
no, yeah. Let's see. And by the end, Ruby, you are looking at a cauldron filled with a golden yellow brew, and
Ooh.
and it glows a little bit. It's definitely very magical and very pretty looking. And once that is done, Antler takes his staff out of it, pulls a cloth, wipes it off, that kind of thing. And he goes to the counter, takes a vial and a ladle, and he will fill the vial up, put a cork in it, and he will hand it to Ruby.
I think like Ruby kind of blinks in surprise before very hesitantly like reaching out and taking the vial and like looking it over. Should I roll Arcana to see what it is, or
I'm gonna say roll intelligence.
intelligence? All right. 17.
17. 17. Ruby, you can infer that that the vial itself looks to be a bit bigger than the vial of poison that you found in your bag a couple of days prior.
Yeah.
And you knew that Antler had taken that poison from you. And judging by this, the soft glow, the sweet smell, you could give a pretty good educated guess that this is probably an antidote. Antler has just given you the antidote to the blood lily poison.
Huh. I think like Ruby is just kind of like looking and considering this in surprise. And she's just kind of like awkwardly standing there thinking to herself for a good while before she kind of like blinks back to like the moment and signs thank you to Antler.
And Antler simply nods before going over to the counter and starts cleaning up the leftover ingredients. But he does quietly say, hold on, I need to think of words. They're in my head, but thinking of how to say them is another matter entirely.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you on that, man.
Yeah. I think he's cleaning for quietly for a little bit, uh, letting Ruby do whatever she's deciding to do, uh, before he goes. You're very lucky. It was not your fever was not caused by the poison. However, since I will be keeping the poison, a cure would do very little good for me. I am already dead, so the poison could not kill me. However, however, should I should I ever need the cure, you will be in charge of administering it. Is that clear?
Ruby nods, and like she like looks down at the little vial in her hands and
Ruby,
like considers it for a long time.
roll insight, Ruby.
Insight. Okay. That's a 12.
Wait, is it?
Oh, oops. Nuts and Bolt Gallery. Shoot! Ah! I put it in the wrong one.
Roll again.
I'm rolling again. That's a net!
Yeah. Uh, I mean, Ruby, goes without saying, you know, he knows, he saw, you know, Antler saw stuff that you did not want him to see, but he has not brought it up. And instead, he's actually given you something. And yeah, with a nat 20, it's very obvious that this is best way I know how to say it is that this is like an olive branch. This is he is giving you something to trust you with.
Oh. Oh. I think Ruby, like, with this realization is just, huh. It was definitely not what she was expecting, and she's just kind of, like, quietly stunned.
And Antler's just cleaning. He's cleaning up. He's with a nat 20. I'm letting you use that nat 20. He's very obvious.
Yeah.
He's very pointedly not looking at you because he is aware that his face is no longer hidden by black void.
The daddening is coming, Antler. You can't stop it.
Shh. No, it's not.
It's coming, Antler.
No, it's not. It's a very logical thing to give her the cure, and he can make more for himself. He can make more for himself, but he should give this to her just in case, you know, because she's real kind, she immortal, so she can die and cause great pain by this poison. So better she has it first. It's very logical. It's pragmatic.
You care, Antler.
No, he doesn't. He can't prove anything.
Well, I can't prove it, but
Exactly.
I guess I can dream.
So what does Ruby do after that?
I think like she kind of like lingers for a bit longer before eventually putting the antidote in her bag of holding, which she has over her shoulder. And she's quietly considering to herself, and like she has a lot to think about. Like there's a lot of things to think about what's happened, and I think she kind of sighs and eventually does sign, I think I'm going to leave for a little bit.
And Antler is quiet for a bit. Thinks about it.
I just need some time to think over some stuff.
Antler thinks about it, and he nods. Very well. But I will be expecting you back within 2 weeks' time. I have something in the works that I will need you for.
Ruby nods, understanding, and just gives a little thumbs up.
Antler just raises a brow at that. He does not return the thumbs up.
Ruby does like give him kind of a little cheeky grin.
Again, he just arches a brow at that. He does not smile, does not grin.
Either way, Ruby eventually starts turning and leaving the room after this little conversation, and
Yeah. I think I think that's a good place to end it. But just before it fades to black, Antler watches Ruby leave, and the cauldron beside him shakes a little bit, which Antler quickly whaps it with his staff and goes, "Shut up." And that is where we are ending today's 12 FPS. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, you guys.
Oh man, that could have gone way worse. That could have gone terribly.
Yeah, it went surprisingly well.
Yeah. Whew. Well, anyways, we'll see you. Anyways, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yay! Thank you for listening.
Bye.